I dwell here in my cave, flooded though it may, by the wisdom of the West. I will always be here. Long after you're flooded, our lands destroyed, our kainga drained our heat, desecrated our wahi tapu, and made our tupuna roll where they lie or sit, watching over my people.
Through the Resilience to Nature's Challenges National Science Challenge, we are exploring what resilience means to us as Māori planners, practitioners and researchers. Are the government's resource management reforms fit for our purpose? Or if not, then what? Building on the blueprints of our tupuna, what can we innovate in Tiriti-centric and equitable ways? And who will help us? This is more than a once-in-a-generation opportunity for us. It's 180 years overdue. This Wānanga, a collaboration between our Kairangahau and social researchers leading work in the Biological Heritage National Science Challenge, embodies kaitiakitanga and our plurality of ethics of care. It is resistance and resilience in practice.
Well, we're very privileged to be hosted here on Ohaki Marae in Reparoa by Lara Taylor and her whānau with the Waikato Awa here. Lara and I have been having conversations about relationships between tangata whenua and tangata tiriti for the last 5 or so years.
It was a deliberate effort to bring together people who were dedicated to the taiao, about trying to do things better, trying to do things differently, but been really cognizant and conscious of the political structures that kind of operate almost invisibly. The different groups of people. There are people from hapu and iwi. We've got students here, we've got people from NGOs, we've got people from Crown Research Institutes, and then we're here for different things within that. We're 2 research projects, one of them from the Sustainable Seas National Science Challenge, another one from the Resilience to Nature's Challenge, National Science Challenge. And so that's the kind of work we do within that space.
E Oho, so to awaken and arise. And part of that is very much our embodied reactions when we understand something differently. We have that aha moment. It's not just something that happens in our head, it happens in our body. So this Wānanga is about people in a place learning together so that we might be in relationship in much more stronger ways that actually enact the hope, the vision, the invitation that is there. A relationship between tangata tiriti and tangata whenua that cares for and with te taiao.
Yeah, so we were privileged during the Wānanga to go and visit a place, Orake Korako. That place is significant for Ngāti Tahu, Ngāti Pāhauwera because it's the birthplace and the origin place of Tahu Matua, the eponymous ancestor from whom Ngāti Tahu draw their name. And so there was a cultural significance of being in this area. And Orake Korako is a geothermal area, magnificently beautiful, aesthetically pleasing and gorgeous, silica sinter terraces and a myriad of different colours, and we have these benches where the ground is lifted and then the silica has flowed over it. Humans couldn't create more beautiful artwork than that which we saw, so there was an aesthetic element. There was an ethereal element too, where you're walking through mists and you could look at the places where maybe the very origins of life came from, all these thermophilic bacteria and algae living in these places. It took you away from the normal. It was very, very not normal. And so just to be in that place, to experience it, was amazing. You stepped out of your contemporary 9-to-5 realities and entered this new world for a time, and then only to be reminded by the kaumātua that actually, this is our land, but we don't actually own that anymore. You know, it belongs to us, but this has been leased to us. And so once again, you're back into that, the mamai.
My family born and bred in the Ngāhere here. Everything up there, we know our way around. But we can't get in the gates. At one time we used to drive up, right to Tutuko, right up in the back here. But now, lock a gate, you know. Next minute they're arguing with us, next minute there's a beast down on the ground, you know. It gets out of hand because the trustees won't allow us to walk our whenua, gather our kai. Yeah. And so it happens everywhere. We're trying to open up those, you know. They have to come out of a cultural education, a wharekura, you know, to have the tikanga-based whakaaro way. And that way we'll get more of our life source back into our bodies. Eh?
And so I think the Wānanga for me, and that visit in particular, was about trying to say, okay, we need to acknowledge and we need to actually not step away from that mamai, that discomfort, you know, step into it and say, actually we need to feel that discomfort in order that we might try and work to find innovative solutions. Sometimes it's newly remembered ways of knowing, knowledge that's been suppressed and outlawed for a time, but now it's coming back. And sometimes it's woven with the technology and the science. And maybe in the interweaving of those two ways of knowing and being and doing, you know, we might imagine some things that I can't imagine now, that my dream is that my students that I supervise will come up with, perhaps.
I think there were some photos of the baths, and you could see the little concrete baths that have been poured and channels that's coming down from the Napa out into the river. So those are usually here, but because the river's so high at the moment, they're not here. That, I guess, is one of the issues with Mercury River having control over our river, is that we never know what level the river's going to be at. So if I just come to have a bath, well, it's not here today. Contact Energy take responsibility for our land subsiding, which is they've inherited that from the government who took the geothermal energy in the first place, developed the big ugly nuclear looking power station, but I actually think Mercury have a lot of responsibility to take as well, because they're the ones controlling how much water is going through.
The landscape here is totally different to when I used to come out as a young boy with my father. I can look out over the Waikato River and the bund they built to stop the rising waters flooding this particular marae because of over-extraction of the geothermal from this area. That has killed off all the natural geothermal systems that as a boy I used to be play in, bathe in and interact with. Looking at the Waikato River and seeing how high that has come in the years since I've been a young person coming here. He mauma, what a waste of the natural interaction we had with the term they now call natural biodiversity.
Yeah, my main concern at my age is really our diminishing resources. And the way we're treating everything is not sustainable. I've worked in the kaitiaki space for a long time, but we've also got to think about the water itself, the diminishing resource. What climate change is doing is bringing more or less in different places. We've got to factor that. But we've got to realise that Aotearoa, belongs to the people of this country, not to offshore.
One of the biggest impacts, of course, of land use around the lakes was the degradation of the water quality, but also the lake beds themselves that resulted in the death of a lot of native fish species. Native fish species that were fundamental to our people as part of their living interactions over the generations.
We all bore witness to what's happened at Ngāti Tahu, Ngāti Whāwa, and so we all now have a responsibility within our spheres of influence, within the knowledge and the power that we wield, whether it be little, whether it be huge at times, to be thinking about that. And if we can do something for this haukainga, for this marae, then we simply must.
The environment Te Taiao needs is not management, environmental management as it's often been talked about, but it needs people management. So the story that brings us here and that connection here is putting attention on our relationships and how we are with each other is actually what Te Taiao needs from us.
The guardians, really, sentinels, for looking after what we have left. And given this country's got a penchant for giving our resources away, someone has to head to and try and take care of it. And fortunately, it's at the heart of many Kiwis, New Zealanders, Maori and Pākehā, make that decision to step out and try and do something about it. And that's what I see with most of these people here. They all have a concern. They've all got kaitiaki-tanga in their veins.
I have been paying a lot of attention to how we create knowledge in ways that actually allow us to be in relationship with nature, with Te Taiao, in the ways that we aspire, because some of the ways that we know the environment actually limit the ability to live in the environment differently. A lot of our interactions so far have been degrading places because we've learnt how to take stuff out, to make stuff. But if we think of ourselves as actually being friends with places, then that changes our whole way that we are in those places and the questions that we ask. So research is very much driven by our values, and so if we change the values that we have for the environment, then that changes the research questions that we ask as well.
I am a hopeless optimist about what the future may bring. We have dynamic people coming, and we have our kaumātua and our Pākeke and others coming through, and we're recognising that we all have a role. So it's aha ko ngā policies, ngā legislations, it's always the people and the folks who implement and are doing it where the change will occur. And being at this wānanga, I have high optimism that if we can have more people like this at this wānanga, then we have a good future ahead of us.